What's going on, everybody? It's SVT Vasquez back at it with a video, back at a little banger, man. In today's video, we're going to be changing the clutch on my 2004 Mustang Cobra. Let's start the show.
I'm on TV! Oh shit! First cops, now this? Oh man, I'm be a star, son!
Alright guys, so as you can see, my car is on jack stands right now. And I'm gonna begin the process of dropping the transmission and changing the clutch on it. I did pull up this nifty little checklist here from Chris Fix's channel. He has a whole video describing on how to drop the transmission, and that's what I'm gonna be using. So this isn't gonna be a step-by-step process for me to show you guys, because it's my first time changing a clutch and my first time dropping a transmission, so it's gonna be a little bit too much for me to record everything. But if I do run into steps that I think are good lessons for you guys, or good knowledge and tips for you guys, I'm gonna share them in the video, and I try to record as much as I can, but I'm not gonna be recording everything step by step. So 10 easy steps here to make it a lot easier for you to remember and to stay organized. This is a good little plan. So I got the first step done. Now I'm going to remove the battery cable and then go on from there. So I'll get that done and I'll be with you guys in a little bit. Okay guys, so one of the first steps you got to do is buy some warm tamales in the morning and a hot drink, so you're not grumpy during the work day and you don't make any mistakes that way. So my first tip for jacking up your car is getting 6-ton jack stands at least. So with the 6-ton jack stands, you're gonna want to lift them up. I have mine lifted up about 4 teeth. You don't want to lift it up too high, but it has to be high enough that the transmission's gonna be able to come down and be removed from under the vehicle. So that's why I had to buy 6-ton jack stands. In the video, Chris Fix uses 12-ton jack stands, which don't require the arms to be raised at all, but those are double the price. Those are $100 each jack stand, which would be $400 in total plus some change. And these are 6-ton jack stands are $45 to $50. So that's why I went with the 6-ton, because they do lift up high enough, but they cost half the price. So I won't be lifting my cars up too often, and my other car's a Miata, so these are overkill for the Miata. That's why I didn't put all my money to the 12-ton jack stands, because I am not a mechanic and I won't need these. So if you're just a DIY like me, you might not want to invest on the 12-ton jack stands. But if you're a mechanic and this is your job, then it's no-brainer investing in your product and getting the 12-ton jack stands if you're gonna make use out of it. Me myself, I don't plan on making much use out of it other than minor jobs or things that I need to do, things like this where my clutch breaks. So that's just a little first tip for you guys. Another tip as well is you're gonna want to remove your shifter first before you start working on the car. That way you don't bring dirt and grease from under the car inside your interior. So to keep things clean, just go ahead, remove this plastic piece, remove these bolts, and remove this whole shifter right here. And that's one of the first things you're gonna want to do. Okay guys, so it's been a couple days, and we've had a few birthday parties here, and I've been sick, so I'm still getting over a little bit of a cough, and I'm working on the car. So what I've got done so far is I've taken off the shift knob, disconnected the battery, taken out the exhaust. Well, my brother took off the exhaust. I didn't even know he took it off. And now the last part before we start taking off the harness and the transmission is the drive shaft. So I've taken 2 bolts off of the drive shaft, and I'm going to tell you guys a few tips of how to accomplish that, because there is a lot of heat and a lot of grease and a lot of gunk down there, your drive shaft bolts might be really stuck. I had to attach the wrench on there, so I got the wrench stuck on there. I put it in the direction I wanted. Then I grabbed the breaker bar, insert it, and then from the outside I was able to reach from out here, so I was able to get good leverage out here from the outside and break it up. And then once it was loose, I just took it out. So I took the first two exposed bolts out, and now what you want to do is, since the other two bolts are on top, you're gonna remove the brake, the handbrake. You're gonna spin the drive shaft so the bolts are exposed, and then put the handbrake back in so that you could get to the two exposed bolts right now that are on top. Okay, so now that the handbrake is out, see, you're able to spin the drive shaft, and your wheels are spinning too. And these are the two exposed bolts here. Now you're gonna set your handbrake again and break these bolts out, and then you're ready. And then you should be ready to remove your drive shaft. Okay guys, so now we're gonna take off the starter. As you can see, we have already taken it off, and that's the way that the bolts are gonna be located. So the top bolt is gonna be hidden from you. So if you're looking for it, this is how it looks. It's gonna be located like this. So when you're looking for it, just reach over and feel for it. You're not gonna be able to see the top bolt, but maybe if you get a look at the starter, how it's shaped, you get an idea of where it's located at. So now that we got that done, we're gonna take off the harness. The reason you're gonna take off the harness is because if you take off the transmission, the harness is not gonna let you remove it from the car. So remove the harness, or else it's gonna keep the transmission attached. And then once we take the transmission off, you're gonna remove this plate to take off the clutch cable, and then that's gonna finally be the point where you're gonna start taking out the transmission bolt. Here's everything that's going into the transmission. We got the RXT clutch from McLeod. We have the flywheel from McLeod as well, and then the 26 spline upgrade input shaft. And I also bought the clutch cable kit from BBK. Now I want to give you guys a few tips for those top bolts. They weren't as hard as people say. I think we were overthinking things, and I'm gonna clear it up for you guys here in this video. So this side over here of the transmission is gonna have 3 bolts. The right side is gonna have 2 bolts, and the top of the transmission is gonna have 2 bolts. What we did is we attached the transmission jack. This was only $100 at Harbor Freight, so not a bad deal. We attached the transmission jack. We unbolted the rear end bar here that holds the transmission, and we slightly lowered the back of the transmission. So we lowered it, and the back of it fell just a tad bit, so that we could reach extended bar through here to get to the top bolt on the left side. Now that worked for the left driver's side bolt of the top transmission. That worked fine. And for the right side, what we found out that worked a lot better than that method, I had purchased ratchet, which is 13 millimeters. So from the top of the engine, I ran it through the back of the transmission back here. My brother put it in place, and then I just wrenched the bolt from up here, and that was easier for us. And that's a quick tip if you guys are having issues with that passenger side bolt. This is an easy way. Get a 13 millimeter ratcheting wrench, and make sure it's the long one, so this gives you a good amount of leverage here. It reaches all the way to the top of the transmission. You put the bolt in and you just wrench it away. Now when removing the bolts, make sure that you place them something like this, so I know that this is the top right side, this is the top left side, bottom left side, and then top left, top right, and that'll go back in the same way. So make sure you place them like that to so you can remember how they go. Now that the transmission's loose, we're ready to bring it down. So it's gonna be pretty attached to the engine, so just be careful. Don't do things too quickly, because if you bring down the transmission, the engine's gonna sway back and forth once it lets go. So you're gonna want to just try to pry the transmission first away from the engine bay and then lower it. Don't just go around yanking things, because it could be dangerous while you're under the car. There it is, boys. Alright guys, this is what the issue was. Check it out. That thing is done. Sheesh. Yep, that was the issue. Let's get rid of this bad boy. We need to swap out the input shaft.
I'm just all about this money. I don't think about no thought. No girl, you don't know about me, so get off my fucking D. Born and raised in the dot. This is real as you gon' see. Girl, you don't know about me, so get off my fucking D.